If heaven is everybody together, then now's the time to start.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Catholics in Ordinary Time. My name is Father Jack Bentz, and I am your host. My guest this week is Deacon Mac Chester. Now, even though this current season of Catholics in Ordinary Time is all about converts to the Catholic faith, Mac is more of a revert than a convert. After his parents' divorce, it was challenging to find a Catholic community to which the family felt welcome. So Mac took a several years break and then came back into the church as a younger adult. His history has given him real gifts to work with young adults who are searching for belonging and meaning, and he currently gives his gifts at the Jesuit parish in Portland, Oregon. I enjoyed this chance to catch up with a colleague, and I think you're going to enjoy his insight and his wisdom. Thank you, Mac Chester, for being part of this.
My pleasure to be with you, Jack Bentz.
It's fantastic. So I know there's a lot going on. You work a full job. You work as a deacon. You are a father, a husband, a citizen, a follower of Christ. How, in the middle of all this, how are you these days?
Oh, boy. It's day by day, I would say. There's days where, you can't look away from what's happening in the world sometimes. As much as I want to. And so some days the hope meter for the future is low, and sometimes the hope meter for the future is very high. So it wavers. I work for a large tech company, as you know, and I recently was granted a 4-week sabbatical because of 4 years of service. And that afforded us the ability to take a long vacation. So I had 33 days in a row off. Gosh. Which hasn't happened since I was laid off in the Great Recession of 2008.
Wow.
Yeah. So a trip to Minnesota to visit brother and do some fishing and golfing and fun stuff with him. And also a trip to Ireland. So a bucket list trip to Ireland for about 10 days with the family.
That's great.
Yeah. So that was good. It was great to step away from work and ministry and somewhat life and even the country.
Yeah. And now you're back at it.
Now I'm back at it. Even just preached this last weekend. I currently serve with the Jesuit community here in Portland. And so right on the campus of your Jesuit West brothers who live right in our backyard, and minister at, of course, it's, St. Ignatius is the name of the parish. But so, yeah,
excellent.
That's where I live. Yeah.
Good. Oh, so you were back there visiting a brother. Remind me, are you from the Midwest to begin with?
No, I grew up in the Southwest. I grew up in a little town called Farmington, New Mexico, down in the Four Corners area. Grew up in a very Irish Catholic family. My grandmother was true Catholic up until, I think she was almost 90 when she died. And she was, driving a stick shift truck to mass every Sunday, religiously.
That's Catholic.
She was hella Catholic. Yeah. She was in it. She was deep. So I went to Catholic school up through the elementary years, and then went to public school after that. And then somewhere along the way there, somewhere after 6th grade or so, my parents separated and divorced. And I think that's kind of where the divergent path of my faith, especially, fell on hard times. My mother was fairly active in the music scene at our church at the time, at the parish. And with sort of the scandalous nature of divorce in, I guess this is the 80s, she was sort of shunned from the church in that respect. And so we all sort of as a family sort of disconnected from our Catholic space and our identity and school and parish. And that kind of lasted for me until my early 20s. I want to say somewhere around 22 or 23. I bumped into a friend who was marrying a Catholic girl, and he was going to become Catholic and asked me to be his sponsor for RCIA or OCIA, whatever we call it today. And I sort of used that opportunity in his journey into the church to sort of reinvest myself into the church.
Okay.
And so that's where.
Yeah. How did you spend the time away from the church? Were you just unaffiliated or semi-affiliated or with something else?
Great question. Mostly unaffiliated, but I had friendships, some good friendships with, especially coworkers who were Mormon, because, living in Boise at the time. And so they always had a very like, hey, you're always welcome to come hang out with us, especially like they have like university, level centers just for the college kids and the young adults, right? Like they have their own like parish for those, just that age group kind of thing. So I had a very good friend who was never pressuring me, was never proselytizing me, never breached a conversation of like, you know what, you'd be great in this church or you should come join us. It was always just like, hey, I'm going to service and then we're going to go hang out afterwards. Would you come along? We love to have you. And it was always that kind of like welcoming aspect of it. So, Mormonism never took. I enjoyed the community piece of it, but the services themselves are a little strange because there's no like ritual to them. There's somewhat like a communion situation happening where they pass some bread and some grape juice, I guess, because, alcohol. And there's not really a preaching done. It's more like personal testimony pieces that come into play
about
in those spaces.
Their experience with God the Father.
Exactly. It's typically somebody is assigned or I'm not sure exactly how they schedule it, right? But there's somebody who's on the docket for a given Sunday and they're, it's very experiential, which I appreciated. I like that piece of it. What
do you mean?
This is how God is working in my life, right? It was very much like I had this experience and I see God actively working and how I was able to navigate, it's usually like people, when they give a testimony like that, will give some sort of testimony about, some struggle in their life. That's typically the touch point for a lot of people in the spiritual world, because that's where I think Jesus meets us more at a very human level, is, where you've been struggling with. So it was, I don't remember the details of what people would talk about, but it would be in that vein of like, my uncle's been really sick of cancer and, I've struggled to watch him through his process of dying and those kinds of things. And so they would share like very personal, and God really touched my heart and, he helped me through that process and those kinds of things that people often bring up and boil up. So.
And do you think when you were away from the church, was that, you described that age as kind of like teenage into early adulthood?
Yes. I suppose I didn't have like a real deep sense of what my faith and what the spirituality was meant to, how it was supposed to be a element of my full human life. It was spirituality and church was kind of it's just what we did. It was, we're part of this parish and we show up. And, for me, I look back very fondly on the reality that, today as a permanent deacon, I do work, helping with liturgies, which I love. I love doing those things in those spaces. And I look back very fondly on my work as, an altar server when I was a kid. I absolutely loved being present to help, to assist in those things. And so I can remember being pulled out of school. Our parish was just right next door to the Catholic school I went to. And, anytime there was a funeral or something, I was like,
yeah, right.
I'm in. Yeah. Sign me up. I'm ready. I'll do a funeral, you know? And so I can't tell you how many funerals I've been to at this point, because if there was one, there was, you need a server or something like that. I was always ready to jump in. So I feel like my early faith life had this sense of, I want to actively participate in some way in this church reality. And I want to be of service to this, larger community, but I didn't have any intentionality around it.
Sure.
If that makes sense. It was just sort of like, this is what we do.
Yeah. But that seems age appropriate as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That cluelessness, that cradle Catholics have, and they can hold on to for a long time.
Yes, that is true.
We can just hold on. But you had an experience of actually engaging it more intentionally as an adult, which a lot of times cradle Catholics don't. They just kind of trundle forward. So this friend is getting married, and you think, oh, maybe I should check that out. What happens then?
From there, I sort of fall back in love with my faith or the faith, or just found maybe a community that felt like home again. I would go and I would spend time in the Mormon space with friends, but it never felt home. It was a nice place to be. It was warm. It was welcoming, but there was like, I don't know, maybe it's the Irish Catholic, like it's in our bones, maybe it's like in our genes, our genetics, that we just have this Catholic root, and it just felt, it just felt like a space that I belonged in, a space where I felt my spirituality and my connection to, growing as an adult could kind of reroot itself, and I could find a way into the deeper waters of the things I was looking for, in your 20s, I was kind of fumbling around in my teen years and early 20s. And then you get kind of mid 20s, maybe 30s for some people. And you start asking sort of the bigger questions of like, what's this all about? What's life about? What are we gonna, where am I headed?
And did you find the community had some of those answers, the liturgy? You read a book, took a class, or?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. No, I don't know that I found the answers in a like life altering homily or in a liturgy or anything like that. I don't think I did. I feel like the space where I really began to engage in sort of a deeper sense of spirituality and a deeper sense of knowing myself was in doing just prayer work, in the sense of just being present to my own quiet, being present to me, to my own internal thought, doing even some spiritual work, but also some mental health work as well, was a really key piece of that as well, of just working through elements of trauma from my family and from my childhood, that places I needed to find healing. And church in the Catholic space doesn't always have much to offer other than maybe sort of the confessional space that is good in and of itself, but doesn't afford you the opportunity to really have somebody invested in your mental and spiritual health in a more profound sort of long-term way. Does that make sense?
So you're describing a therapeutic kind of journey. How is that Catholic and getting you more open to the God piece, or was it connected?
I think they're connected, because I think at the end of the day, our spirituality and our growth in the spiritual world is about healing. It's very much about healing. It's some level, I believe, I really deeply believe that we at some level need to enter into a church space where we have rules and regulations and pieces that keep us between the guardrails and give us a sense of building a container for our spirituality, is a term that often is used. And from there, I think once that container is set and created, I think the deeper waters of our spirituality is to go out into the spaces of healing. And a lot of it's unlearning some of the elements that we have, that we learned when we were kids. An example is, God is this bearded man sitting on a throne, right behind you. I see it right behind you, right? He's got the beard and, the whole thing. And right there. Yeah, exactly. Right. A beautiful image, right? Gets us started, gives us that like fatherly feel or grandfatherly, like, oh, God's this warm, fatherly reality that we can sort of attach ourselves to. But I think at some level we have to unlearn that, and we have to invite God into a reality where God is a friend sitting across from us at a table, holding our hand, present to us, not wanting to watch us and rule over us and, keep tabs on all the things we do right or do wrong, but a God who wants to invite us into like this unbelievably deep friendship, right?
And you saw that in your mid-20s in a community, or you just saw the hint of that, or you started following a thread towards that?
I think I got a hint of it and just started following that thread towards it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And somewhere along the way, Debbie, my wife, and I, we bump into each other in church spaces, and we both are sort of at the same space, okay, church and our spirituality and what we've read up to this point and where we've grown in our age has gotten us to a certain point. So where do we go from there? Do you stay where you are, or is there something more? Is there something deeper? Is there, does God want each of us to continue down this path of healing and growth, and ultimately, I believe, becoming more human, right? That's the end goal here, I think. So we followed that path, and then I bump into her and our lives merge. I inherit two amazing, step kiddos along the way. And so we sort of merge into this blended family and start that journey as well. And then was it about 2008? I go into work one day, working for a tech company, a little startup company. And I go in on a Thursday. They pull us all into a conference room and they say, "We have enough money to pay you till tomorrow. You no longer have a job. Goodbye. Okay. Arrivederci," right? Like, you're done. So that's the first big, like, gut punch, stumbling block, I would say, in my adult life, where I went from, hey, things look good and I'm living a good life and, I've got a great job and a paycheck and I'm married and family and the whole thing. And all of a sudden, literally in one afternoon, everything in my life gets kind of shaken up because the rug gets pulled out from underneath me. I spend the next 13, 14 months unemployed. But like, by the grace of God, my unemployment check, like 4 unemployment checks in a month add up to like our mortgage to the penny, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Like crazy things like that where you're like, that seems odd, kind of thing. And in that process, I really set out into some really deeper waters of prayer. It was not a kind of casual thing that I was bumping into. It became a much more like disciplined daily routine in my life. Mm-hmm. And within that space is where I begin to hear the rumblings of the diaconate calling come to play. And so I just opened a conversation with the deacon who's in charge of formation through the Diocese of Boise. And that process just begins to unfold. Mm-hmm. And in a way it's hard to explain it. And I would guess, ordained people like yourself and other people, you look back on those moments that brought you to your calling and ordination, and there's so many doors that just open and you just take that leap of faith and walk through it. And then the next door opens and the next door opens. And so I felt I was finally, this is like my early 30s, somewhere in that space. And I began to have a sense of like purpose. Like, this faith isn't just, showing up and being present on Sundays. This faith is a reality that we are invested in, returning something back to a community, to the world at some level. And so that kind of deeper sense of purpose really takes root in my kind of early 30s and that process of diaconate formation.
Yeah. And is it important, I'm just asking you as a fellow Catholic, but also as someone who is a little more further into it, like being ordained as a deacon and serving, do you spend much time trying to position yourself or answering persistent questions about like, why am I bothering being Catholic when I could easily be Presbyterian or Anglican or, or Buddhist or, Mormon? I mean, like, what do you, or you're just like, I answered those, I'm moving on, or?
I do struggle with those questions. I suppose I struggle in the Catholic space, trying to understand and trying to articulate the Catholic faith in a way that is a message of welcoming and love to all people. And I feel often there's this great resistance within Catholic spaces to engage with communities that don't fall into the moral scope of what the Catholic Church teaches is valid. For instance, the LGBTQ community.
So they're a community to be ministered to, but not necessarily one that's part of.
That's a good way to put it. Yes. It's the lack of incorporation of those communities into the spiritual space that I struggle with. And I look outside of the Catholic Church and I see, Protestants and Methodist communities who do a much better job of incorporation of the body of Christ in that sense of that real connection to incorporating all people are welcome into these spaces. So that gives me an internal struggle. I struggle with that because I feel like where I sit as a deacon, especially, I sit with sort of one foot in the church and one foot out in the world. I hate to sort of divide the world into a binary space like that, but we sort of, as a deacon, I feel like I sit sort of on this edge, on this fence, on this border between this reality. And I feel like the calling and the charism, especially of a deacon, is to bring these spaces together, to merge communities. It very much, I think, the way that Jesus would go off into these oddball spaces in scripture, there's always like, oh, he went off to Tyre or someplace, one of these like strange places that don't make any sense until you look at them from a historical context. And you're like, oh my God, he went out into this god awful place that nobody wanted to go or minister. And what did he do? He went there and he tried to like glue them together and bring them together into this deeper sense of community. And I feel very adamant about doing that. And it can be a struggle in Catholic spaces. I'm very fortunate that the parish and the Jesuit community that I serve with now, very much holds a very open and welcoming, reality within our parish space that we do in reality see all people as part of our community. And we want all people to be present, to be heard, to be comfortable, and find home and find space so that we all can grow spiritually, that we all can do healing work spiritually and create that. I just preached yesterday about authentic community or beloved community, as Dr. King used to speak about, in the civil rights movement, was this reality that, we need to bridge these gaps. And if heaven is everybody together, then now's the time to start.
Yeah.
Right? Like, why all the division
Yeah.
when if we really think heaven is the end game, then we should be building that reality now, as we say in the Our Father, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
here on earth.
Do you spend much time in your deacon role or as a Catholic as wanting other people to become Catholic, to share in what you have, or you're like, they're good, or what?
It's a good question. I wouldn't say that I'm passive about being sort of evangelizing in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to take the mindset that people, if I'm living my life in a compelling, Christ-centered way, that living of my life in that way should be a compelling enough invitation for somebody to say, wow, there's something different with that one. You know, there seems to be a sense of joy or a sense of connection. Something is different. And that invitation is just the way I think people perceive how we live our faith out without the need of, you know, using big theology words or, you know, even inviting people to church spaces and things like that. So it's odd that I don't really invite people to church. Like, you would think I'd be out there, oh my God, come to my church. It's so great. But I don't.
I find it's hard to invite people when you work up front, I think, because for me, it feels so self-centered. Like, come and hear me, you know, watch me do my thing. I was like,
right.
Oh, you know, I'm not crazy about that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what holds you back as well. But
yeah, it is a little cringy to, like, you know, oh my God, I'm preaching this weekend. You should come check it out.
It's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be so great. And then it isn't. And then they're all disappointed. And then, I have to.
That's the problem.
So,
How is your leading by example going? Do you have people come to mind that have decided to become Catholic because you're living it joyfully?
I wouldn't say necessarily that people are becoming Catholic. I would say that the work that we do a ministry now at our parish after COVID kind of wiped everybody, communities essentially just wiped off the map when we're gone. Our Jesuit pastor, Mike Moynihan, really wanted to bring especially young adults back into the church space. And so he invited me and empowered me to begin that work, to reach out and connect with adults in their 20s and 30s within our community and find a way to, the apostolic preferences from the Jesuit are part of this, right? So there's that one of the elements, there's 4 elements, and one of is engagement with young adults to enrich their life and to reach out and connect to them. And I felt compelled to help our parish do that because I do believe that is something that is necessary. So I guess to answer your question, it's not so much the evangelizing of folks who aren't Catholic into our space. It's the evangelizing of folks who are Catholic and need a space where they can belong and where they can ask hard questions and where they can be present and where we can do things like we've done the spiritual exercises retreat with them, as you taught me back in the Bronco Catholic years. We've been able to invite people just into a deeper conversation with each other. And I feel like that's been more fruitful than even me showing up to preach or me giving some sort of presentation to the parish or something like that. It's in those small sort of communities of people who want to do a spiritual exercise type retreat or something like that. Or we meet the first Sunday of each month at our parish. We host a meal for adults in their 20s and 30s, and we incorporate some sort of spiritual enrichment in that for them. That can be 10 or 15 minutes of a prayer method or a mini retreat on, Lent, the beginning of Lent or something like that. It's just those small faith group spaces where you get to kind of know people on that real personal level. That's where I think the good work. Yeah. That's where the fruit is.
And I bet it's helpful too that like a lot of them and a lot of people in general, took a break from the church, in the sense that you have an experience. It does not put you off when someone says, I haven't been to church in 4 or 5 years. You're like, whatever. I assume you just move forward because you're like, yeah, I get it.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I love it when people admit that, because I'm always of this mindset of, you know what, if I can just invite them back in, if you came today and you haven't been in 4 years and you had a sense of welcoming and home here, make it your home. And if you come once a month, once every 6 months, once a year, I'm going to welcome you the same. I'm going to be happy that you're here. I'm going to welcome you the same in this community. And do I hope that you come every Sunday? Okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's good. That's part of the rules of, what we do as Catholics. But more importantly, can you connect into a faith community that has your spiritual life, like the longevity of your spiritual life? Is that an important element of a community that is being fostered and is being invested in, and things like that? So with our young adults, that is very much what we hope to do, is just meet them on their journey. Some are college students. Some are college graduates. Some are in transition. They're Jesuit volunteers who have just got out of the Jesuit volunteer corps and they're moving into the real world, kind of thing. And some of them are married couples. I think we have 3 babies on the way at this point in this group. And so there's we have everything. We have family. We have single. We have, people struggling with any number of different things. And we want to create a space where they feel comfortable coming to us as a parish staff, as clergy. I work with 2 great Jesuits, Father Sam and Father James Antonio, at our parish, and they're just a gift from God, because they get it. They want to do this work. They want to invest in people's lives and spirituality and see that grow.
Yeah. And so you see Catholics going deeper. I mean, your job is being able to be available to them and show them hospitality, inclusion, welcome, warmth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Human interaction.
Exactly. Yeah.
Actual attention.
Yeah. I think the piece of it too, and I know that we practice this back at Bronco Catholic, was also this concept of, young adults should be ministering to young adults at some level too, right? It's this idea that once you're incorporated into the body of Christ, by virtue of your baptism, you become a leader in that space as well, right? It isn't just the clergy that has to do all this ministry work. It's important for young people to recognize that you're ordained by that baptism, right?
Correct.
As well. And so your work is to assist and to guide and to listen to, your peers and be present to them and minister to them. And that sometimes is just listening, and sometimes that's asking questions, and sometimes that's letting somebody rant, and sometimes that's an invitation to come to Mass, and sometimes that's seeing somebody who isn't coming into the space, just praying for them and saying, you know what, they're on their journey and they're doing their thing, and it's okay.
This series that we're doing on conversion is a broad range. So there's people that have converted from Judaism into Catholicism. Okay, that's a journey. People that were one thing, fell away, did nothing, came back, came to something else, came to Catholicism. And one of the other pieces that we're noticing is that people are converted and reconverted all the time. It's like Saint Anthony of the Desert saying, today I will begin. He's been out in the desert for 40 years and still writing that, still being converted. Are there parts of your work or people or a type of person that continues to convert you for closer to Christ or to turn more fully to God?
I find Father Richard Rohr and the work at the Center for Action and Contemplation to be a space. I get a daily email out of that space, and there are certain weeks where the topic of that week's theme just stuns me. into like where I have to go back and I have to reread an email from a few days ago and go back and just go like, oh my God, what does this mean in my spiritual life? Like where am I? There's a lot of like work with, going deeper into like mysticism, going into a space where you stop dividing the world up into the good guys and the bad guys and the binary, sort of either or sort of reality. And you move deeper into the both and the acceptance of, hey, I'm a sinner, but I'm also a saint. Like I'm living both realities. There's this like mysticism. There's this mystery to this reality that we're all of it, and so for me, I like to return to spaces like that where I'm challenged at the level of sort of the spiritual place that I'm at right now, and late 40s, sort of transitioning even soon into the retirement years or closer than the early 20s.
To death. Closer to death.
Okay, fine. If that's what you want to say. Yes, closer to my demise. But yeah, through that reality, there's a lot of stumbling that happens through that. So I suppose the conversion for me is being open and available to the wisdom that those struggles present to me, and then not fighting against them, like allowing the struggle and the anxiety and all of the realities of seeing an imperfect world not going the way I want it to somewhat detach from that and allow sort of the imperfect world to unfold. And for me, part of it is taking that wisdom and taking that sense of mystery and trying to pass it down and invite younger people in our church space to embrace that, to stumble through and to fall and to recognize that life is pretty much a series of deaths and resurrections. I mean, you're right. It is. It's ultimately like we have to fumble through life and then we come out of it. There's that reality of, there's a resurrection on the back end of all of the struggles in our lives. It's taken many years for God to sort of like get that through my thick head with a 2x4, right?
It's nice. It's nice to hear that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I don't want to live that reality. Yeah. I don't want to live there. I don't want the suffering. Nobody does. Nobody wants the suffering. So we have to be present to when somebody comes to me for, just some spiritual guidance and, their life is falling apart. Internally, I giggle a little bit and I'm like, oh, good. This is a good thing because it's in that space of struggle. It's in that space when our life seems to be spinning out of control is the place where God really gets hold. And that's where we really ultimately, like really truly grow as humans. If we allow it,
it's no surprise that Christianity took root in the poorest of the poor, enslaved peoples, people with suffering, because they're the ones that needed it.
Yeah.
And that remains the case, no matter where we find ourselves. One further question. In addition to our Roar's books, which I'm sure you have one on the go, what are you reading these days that's feeding you?
I have been enthralled with reading some biographies. And so there's a fascinating biography. I'm a huge fan of Conan O'Brien. And so Conan is a history buff, if you listen to his podcasts and to his, space. And he was recently honored as a Mark Twain Humorist Award winner, I think, at the Kennedy Centers. And so I highly recommend go to Netflix and watch his special that they did about his Mark Twain Award. I love biographies. I love other people's lives because they just sort of fascinate me. And so, right now I'm enthralled in Conan was the one who sort of turned me on to the, Ron Chinow, I think is the author. He writes a lot of historical books. I believe he wrote the book about Hamilton that Lin-Manuel Miranda ultimately built Hamilton, the play off of, right? Yep. So I've yet to read that one, but I'm enthralled right now in the Mark Twain story because you talk about somebody who's, this literary genius, but man, he lost like an entire fortune of his and his wife. I mean, he just like fumbled through life, and it was just like shocking that he, like we look back and we're so, wow, look at Huck Finn, we read Huck Finn and we think, wow, and American literature genius and all of these things. But you look at his life and you're like, what an absolute crazy person. He just was like, he was like so vindictive and mean to people. He was like blasting through money. He thought he was like this great business person. He was a complete idiot when it came to, we were just like, what in the world? But through it all, he does all of these writings. They uncover all of these things. And so I'm just like fascinated by like, and he's kind of an awful person.
Yeah, right.
Like at the end of the day, like you don't know that you'd want to be his friend when you get to know.
Like maybe not.
Sort of his, yeah. Totally. You're like, oh my God. And so I just find those types of books to be absolutely fascinating. So
that's excellent. Thank you for your recommendation, because I like Ron Chernow's stuff. A great deal.
Yeah. He's got Ulysses S. Grant. He's got one on Hamilton that you probably read, and then there's the new one is on Mark Twain.
Yeah, because Grant was terrific.
He was. He also is like, he was a nobody 2 years before the Civil War. Ulysses S. Grant is like, he would be not even a footnote in American history or in world history. And so, so not that we need to make history in our lives and have books written about us or receive awards or any of that crap. That's all nice and good. But at the end of the day, there's this capturing a well-written book like that captures the real sweet humanity of people like that. Mark Twain is also like unbelievably generous.
Yeah.
Like there were times when he gave away money to people and to causes that was unbelievably generous.
Yeah.
And there were times he just absolutely wasted money as well. It's like this, right?
Good combination.
I think I'm the same. I think I have that same tendency. There's plenty of, it's like if I won the lottery, I know there's so many things I would, want to do for good, but I know I'd go and I just blow money on stupid things as well. So it's good. It gives us like, I think it is reflective of like a good autobiography like that gives us a reflection back on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's that reminder of like, oh yeah, I see the sort of awful, or I see the sort of like, worst part of Mark Twain, but I also see a little bit of that in myself.
Yeah. If you don't, if you don't like biography, you are not going to like the Gospels that much.
No,
you're just not going to.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Oh, yeah, you're right there. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Oh my God. I never thought of that. Now I've got to go unpack that for a week. Thank you.
You're welcome.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
It is my pleasure.
Really appreciate hearing from you again. It's been too long. I loved working with you in Boise.
Same. I did. I have just the fondest memories. I look back. I bump into people. Our dear friend, Father Radmar, is living back in the community here in Portland, and I bumped into him a couple of weeks ago, and we reminisced about the work that we did on the campus of Boise State, the Bronco Catholic years.
So great. Yeah.
It was too short. And too short. Yeah. And I've learned so much from you and from Radmar and from the Jesuits. And
I'm delighted that you ended up at the Jesuit parish there in Portland. We're so lucky.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it just again unfolded in a way where it like when we moved here, I wasn't certain about but I kind of during COVID I just kind of took a break from diaconate work, and it was one of the great gifts of my ministry to just kind of walk away from it and not be attached to having to do it anymore.
You mean just when people needed you the most? Is that what?
Yeah, probably. Well, on mine at least, I guess. So, yeah, that's probably true. But I needed this, like, for my own health. There was that need to sort of step away from it and find a new path and find the right community to sort of get back into it. And I always say people ask me sometimes after Mass, are you in the Jesuits? Are you part of that? And I said, no. I'm a proxy. I'm a proxy Jesuit. I'm a wannabe Jesuit. I would love to. They won't officially take me, but they'll let me sort of hang on to the edge of their parish.
They're lucky
and
to have
work.
you.
And that's very kind. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Bye. And that's our show. If you enjoyed this interview, be sure to share this episode on social media. You can leave us 5 stars on Spotify or a review on Apple, or email it to a friend. Anything you can do to invite folks to listen, it really does help us to continue to produce this program week after week. Thank you.